Welcome to the Retrograde video game podcast, where this week we give you our hottest takes on gaming.
Oh, wow. My name is Andrew Baskin, but with me, as always, is the mama's boy of podcasting, Mr. MBOB himself. MBOP.
Mikey Marr Aaronworth, because today I got some new rules.
Thank you, Mark from Cleveland, for that submission.
Oh,
Please submit. What is Mikey of podcasting? We used to go with bad boy of podcasting. Now he's the mama's boy of podcasting.
I really didn't think this was going to take. I thought this was going to be, because I said this on the last recording when you revoked my title of the bad boy of podcasting unceremoniously.
Yeah.
That
You were being bad enough.
But I love that nickname so much.
Well, maybe I'm turning it back.
Fine, I'll rent a fucking van.
Oh, no.
No, I will.
No, that's
I'll
done.
be the bad boy.
The gross boy of podcasting. The pervert boy of podcasting. I was amazed too, because we'll sometimes put out calls and we'll be like, hey guys, if you want to leave something positive, and they're like, fuck you.
Yeah.
And you're like, I guess no one listens to this podcast, even though that is not true. And we see the numbers, you liars. And but instead I was like, hey, do you want to make fun with a co-host? And like DMs just flying in.
Any excuse for people to be shitheads.
Yeah.
They're like lining up at the door. Yeah.
We should just say, give us 5 stars and you can write the most wildly insulting things to us possible on the reviews.
Hey, why not do?
Yeah, do it.
That's actually happened before. We put out a call to action last year for people to leave 5 stars and just with farts.
Yes.
And a few people actually did it.
And thank you very much.
Always fun to see.
We appreciate that. So Mama's Boy Podcasting.
So
Mark from Cleveland.
this week we're going to be, thank you, Mark from Cleveland. Here's my thing I'll say about you. Go fuck yourself. I'm a mama's boy. I'm going to leave you mamaless, you bitch. I'm going to kill your mom. That's what I'm going to do.
God. Wow. Into a recorded
That's
device.
Right. Oh, shit. I really hope his mom doesn't die in the next 2-3 weeks.
Slips
or
in the
so.
tub.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, it's impossible to say it wasn't Mikey.
At what point would I be safe from this? You know?
Yeah, that's a good question.
She dies in a car crash. Who was driving the other car?
Yeah, she dies of lung cancer. I made her smoke for years.
I did make her smoke for years. It was the stress of knowing that her son was listening to this shitty podcast for so long.
I waited until she slept, put 4 in her mouth.
Yeah.
Just let her breathe in and out.
Oh God. It would cure your sleep apnea though.
Yeah. Would it?
It did.
Oh, it did.
Yeah. I don't know how. I'm not a doctor. I just shoved cigarettes into people's mouths. Andrew, this week we're going to do something which I didn't realize it has been over a year since we originally did this.
Okay, I only know that because I tried to go back and find my old hottest takes.
Yeah.
And I was like scrolling for a while.
A long time.
Yeah.
We did this over a year ago. We gave some of our hot takes in gaming. Now, when you have a video game podcast, things come up and you get called out all the time. So
Boy, do you.
we have these kind of micro opinions on gaming, ways we think the games should kind of present themselves or be developed or be structured. What we want to do is take this episode to take some of our hottest takes on gaming and pitch them to one another.
Yeah.
Not saying that we have to agree with one another.
Yeah.
Maybe try to convince the other person that these hot takes are actually legitimate. Last time you had something like, I think you said Pokemon games aren't fun. What was What was your take?
Pokemon in general isn't the most overrated franchise in video games.
Right.
Yes.
And
Because it came out with 3 good games and everyone's been riding since then.
100%. And all I want to do is go back and rekindle that flame that I had with Pokemon Red and Blue. And every time I go back to a Pokemon game, I'm disappointed.
Just on the Pokemon thing, it is amazing to me that the 150 come out. And, 151.
Yeah, of course.
So sorry. Respect
Well,
to
maybe even 152 when you have Missing No in there.
Yeah, that's also a good point. You got to respect the
great
OGs.
point.
And I go, these are canon.
Yes.
These are the 10 commandments of my life now.
150 commandments of your life.
A turtle that's in a theft squad. I get that. A little lizard that breathes fire. These are my gods. These are my pillars, my totems. And then they go, there's another 150. I'm like, look at these joke ass jabronis. Like, they're like, oh, it's a plant that talks. I'm like, get the fuck out of here with this shit.
Out. Plants don't talk. They don't say their names.
Yeah.
I understand now why there was this battle between like the pagan gods and the Christian gods.
Absolutely.
Because it's like, these ones are real.
Yeah.
This guy throws lightning bolts from the sky.
Yeah.
And he sometimes fucks humans.
Yeah.
Make demigods all over the place. And then this god comes in. There's just one of them.
Yeah.
He sent his son down to get killed.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Yeah. Did you see, I don't know. I loathe to bring this up. I'll make it short. The controversy about the opening ceremonies with the Paris Olympics.
No.
And there's one if they're doing the Feast of Odysseus, and which is also Bacchus.
Okay.
And it's
no, not Odysseus. Dionysus.
Yes. I said Odysseus. Sorry, I'm like Dionysus. And there are people like, don't make fun of the Last Supper. It's like, well, that's not the Last Supper. And then you have to go like, wait, do you think the Last Supper was the first time that was like Last Supper was based on something? It's like, well, it's not because that's God. I'm like, It's like you don't want to like. It's like getting one step closer to Santa's not real.
They're like, I can't believe these Mesopotamians had this theory on the flood. They stole that from the Christians. It's like, I don't know if your timeline is right here.
This was found before Jesus was supposed to exist. Okay, that's fine.
Oh my God, the Old Testament completely plagiarized the New Testament.
Yeah, there was a whole thing where it's like, oh, no one wants to tell them, right? Okay, good, yeah.
There was another thing I saw. I don't know if it was Paris. I think it was, or just was a meme I saw or something. But someone was like grinding up on a statue of Bacchus, and people were like, "I can't believe this younger generation is like defiling the statues and disrespecting the old culture." And it's like Bacchus would have fucking loved that.
Bacchus is so happy right now.
He's so happy. His
That
dick
little pig
was stone and is even more stone now. So before we get into our hot takes, Andrew, I've got some updates on some games that I've been playing.
Yeah.
Namely one game that I've been playing. I brought up on the last episode of this podcast that I was back into Psychonauts 2.
Oh, yes.
Since then, I have completed Psychonauts 2. And I will say, good game overall. I have a lot of complaints about it, though.
Oh.
And a lot of them are going to feature in some of these. So what I've decided to do, rather than get into my A through Z like complaints and total review and breakdown of Psychonauts 2 and all my thoughts on it, I'm going to kind of do so over the course of my hot takes and give examples of where these hot takes fit into Psychonauts. So I'm going to use it as a thread through my hottest takes.
Yes, that is a great idea because I was going to talk about Alan Wake 2 again, but I also have a hot take around that I want to bring up.
That's perfect.
Wow, that kind of works out really well. Any other gaming updates? I could always talk about, college football's out. I'm playing a lot of that. I have thoughts.
Who's your favorite player in the game?
Who's my favorite player? It's weird. There's a reference. There's like you can go back to historical teams.
Like 2007 or something?
Yeah, I think it's around there. It's around there.
Yeah.
They have a really tall wide receiver with curly hair on the University of Florida.
Wow.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's crazy. A tight end named Al Horford and a wide receiver named Joaquin Noah.
He doesn't have a name that reminds me of an Old Testament story, does he?
Yeah. Or the star of the Joker. If you combined, there's a before and after. This star of the Joker
created an ark to save him and his family from the flood.
But hates unicorns. Yeah.
Oh, fuck the unicorns.
Yeah, get out of here.
Get out of here, unicorns. Were unicorns the panda of the early era?
How so?
Well, they tried to save them, and the unicorns, in spite of themselves, just didn't want saving.
Yeah.
Like pandas, we have to be like, will you please fuck each other?
And they are trying to commit suicide at every opportunity.
100%.
Just falling. Big goofy creatures. And then you start looking at them and you go, yeah, no wonder you guys are almost extinct.
Yeah, that's it. If they should be. They don't want to have sex. They want to kill themselves all the time. They remind me of fucking Gen Z, maybe.
We gave them phones. Watch out. They won't have sex. They just keep eating each other's ass. Oh my God. It's so annoying.
They eat ass like they eat bamboo.
That's not going to get you pregnant, pandas.
No, they tear those things apart, stupid pandas. You know what? Okay, so since we've kind of deferred our gaming conversation,
yes.
we'll draw that thread through our hottest takes. You and I, this is going to be a couple weeks in the past now, but prevalent because I think this movie is going to be very popular for a very long time. You and I saw Deadpool and Wolverine.
Despicable Me 4. Oh, no, yeah, what? No, what were you saying? Deadpool, okay.
Oh, did you not see Deadpool and Wolverine? You were at a different thing. Because you went to the bathroom at the beginning of the movie and you didn't come back for a while.
And you kept saying, it was really funny how many times they said banana.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't remember Wolverine saying banana.
I mean, I get his costume was yellow, but
actually, Deadpool does reference the Minions in the movie. That is so funny. I'm just putting that together.
He references pretty much everything at some point in the movie.
Yes. Yeah. That script must be long. But yes, I don't want to. I was going to make the joke of where he says the Minions, but I just want to say this movie came up 6 weeks ago.
At this point, about a month ago. Yeah,
about a month ago. So, spoiler alert for a movie that is so widely on TikTok right now, you can watch almost the whole thing.
Yeah. You know what? This is a perfect TikTok movie because each of the scenes are so clippable.
Yes.
Like it's like. I feel like this is what movies are going to be moving forward.
Yes.
I know you. So you give your thoughts on
I was going to say, it's almost like it's barely a movie. Like it's almost like it's a series of scenes that are collected together. And then they go, we present to you these series of scenes. It is. So we Mikey and I saw this together. We walked out. We laughed the whole way. We saw it on opening night. It was full theater. And the crowd was laughing a lot. And we walked out and it was like, that was so much fun.
Yes.
And it was so much fun. We laughed a lot and it was entertaining. And it was fun to see Wolverine with the cowl.
Yeah.
And nice to see Hugh Jackman back. And man, Hugh Jackman's a good actor, right?
He's a great actor.
He is.
And he's in great shape.
He's in great shape. And we got to do this thing that we constantly have to do where we go, How is it 55? What
Wow.
amazing.
Wow. It must just be
So
a lot of
much-
sit-ups and eating his Wheaties,
So
right?
much chicken and broccoli. It's just really incredible. And we got to play this game where we don't
Yeah.
act like he's not on drugs.
No.
Which fine, whatever. All the power to you. It's not a competitive sport. I don't care. Is that I would say I had a lot of fun. I'm not sure it's a great movie, but it was entertaining.
Yeah. It's funny because I think you and I have largely the same opinions of the movie.
Sure.
We both laughed, like you said. We both had a lot of fun.
Yes.
I am, however, my thesis of the movie would be a little bit more forgiving of its absence of soul. Because I don't know that that's what it was going for. You know, I don't look to a Ryan Reynolds movie and think like, was this anything more than feel good? You know, I don't know that he has that in him. Even Welcome to Wrexham is probably just this like excuse for him to show his pearly whites on screen with Rob Delaney.
Yeah.
Or This Is Wrexham or whatever that show
whatever.
is.
I've never seen a second of it.
I'm never going to watch that. But no, I will say that I expected a certain product out of Deadpool.
Sure.
I like Deadpool 1. I was not a huge fan of Deadpool 2.
No.
So I thought it was going to be just an abundance of Marvel style jokes, which I don't think I need to elaborate on. I think everyone knows what like superhero jokes are these times, but with more of an R-rated spin on them. I was thoroughly surprised and almost impressed at the level of humor in this. It was funnier than I expected and wittier than I expected. I thought it was going to be a lot of like I said, those kind of surface level jokes, but with like an R-rated spin. So like a dick joke instead of a joke about, I don't know, someone having a big ass. Who knows?
Yeah.
But
That's always funny though.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Big Rump.
Big
Hilarious.
Rump, the Hulk. It's huge.
So funny.
He gets angry and his butt gets bigger.
Yeah.
Boy.
His butt gets bigger.
Boy, oh boy.
Like a butt Pinocchio.
But Nokia.
Yes, exactly.
So I'll say that all in all, I was impressed with it. And I often, when I'm reviewing things, want to take into account what the movie was trying to be. And because I don't believe it was trying to be something with a ton of substance and soul, in fact, it was kind of the whole purpose of it was dealing with the offshoots and the forgotten elements of the Marvel storylines and MCU. And because of that, it makes sense that it was kind of more of a hodgepodge than anything else.
Yeah, okay. I just think if you make the whole plane of the black box, it probably can't fly. And the number of times the Deadpool had to show up a photo of my whole world, I lose this.
Yeah.
If you do, and you go, oh, just shut up and tell jokes again.
Yeah.
Don't make me try and care at the end they're all sitting at a dinner table and go like, see, they all got back together. And you're like, don't I don't care. I never cared for 1 second. I was never too worried about it. It's a love letter to a movie studio that made bad superhero movies for the most part.
Yep.
And we're supposed to feel something about it. And that drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Matthew McFadden, who plays Paradox, I hope he got paid per exposition.
Yeah.
Like $10 million per exposition, because he would have $70 million in the bank. He just has to go like literally with Wolverine claws in his face multiple times, has to go like, what's happening? And he goes, this is what's happening plot-wise. And you go, great, thanks, fuck off. And he's like, got it. And, you know, like, I just think it's like, it's great, but it also is a movie that will handle once really well, because you'll see it. It's surprise elements.
I'll never watch it again.
And then because they won't work. None of the jokes will work again, because you're like, oh, okay, cool. So, hey, we used it. It's like a firework. It went off once. It was really a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm never going to think about it ever again. Stop taking videos of fireworks. You're never going to watch them. So there you go.
True. I'm never going to, though, blame a firework for not having a ton of longevity. I'm like, the purpose is to just do and then be gone. You know, like that's kind of the same way I look at Deadpool Wolverine. All in all, I would recommend going out and seeing it.
Oh, yeah.
If you haven't already, you should. It's a ton of fun, especially with a crowded theater.
Well, based on the numbers, I think everyone's seen it.
Yeah. Fucking
made a lot of money.
Popular.
Do you want to talk about the other thing? Just so we're talking about it.
The other thing?
Robert Downey Jr. playing Dr. Doom.
Oh, God. Yeah, may as well.
Because that came out the same day.
Yes.
It was Friday was the opening of Deadpool Wolverine, and then Saturday was the Saturday of Comic-Con Hall H.
Yeah.
Marvel. They came back. They finally did. They had a thing to talk about, and they talked about like 3 movies, really, majority. And then they talked about at the end the 2 Avengers movies that will be coming up. The Russo brothers are coming back. That's really exciting.
Yep.
And then they announced that Robert Downey Jr. is going to be playing Dr. Doom, Victor Von Doom. And as Marvel does on a Saturday in Hall H, they won the news cycle. They have the biggest movie in the world that is one of the biggest openings of all time. And that reaction is, no matter how you feel about it, is something. Because people went, oh my God. And no matter who you think Victor Von Doom could have been, and there could have been a lot of people probably. Sure. I don't think anyone getting revealed does the same thing. You don't go like, Cillian Murphy.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yep.
You know, so yeah. What do you think?
Look, I know And this is going to happen with comic books because comic books have told every possible story and every permutation about every hero and villain. So people are like, there is a universe where Tony Stark is Victor Von Doom. And I'm like, I don't really care. I don't want you to write that version of the story. This is the problem with the multiverse is that it creates some really cool potential for storytelling, but also gives some really tempting traps for telling whatever story you want. And it's kind of like, I'll compare it to like a Tim Burton movie where at the beginning, you're like, this is wacky and weird. I like it. And then it loses all grounding in reality and it can tell whatever story it wants. And it's like, isn't this wacky and weird? And I'm like, yeah, but it's lost the thread. It doesn't have the core of humanity anymore. And I think with something like this, you're just like, who's the biggest actor? Like you said, I feel like this was purposely done because you couldn't have had a bigger announcement than Robert Downey Jr. playing the next big villain in the next stage of the MCU. And that was like fabricated in a lab in order to get the best possible. Like, is he going to be the best actor to play this villain? Probably not. Like, we've seen what he does. We know what Robert Downey Jr. does, and it's great. But if it's the same tone as Tony Stark, but just as a villain, I'm okay. Like, I don't need that.
I can't, the big thing on the internet is you can't tell if it's a genius stroke that makes a lot of sense or it's desperation.
Yeah.
I don't think the Russo thing is desperation at all because those guys like went off, made very mediocre movies, if not bad.
Yeah.
And but they were really good at making Avengers. So it's like, well, come back and make Avengers. And they're like, I love that. That sounds good.
You didn't like The Gray Man?
I didn't like that. I was a huge Citadel fan.
Citadel.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Whereas Robert Downey Jr. is the opposite. He dies playing Tony Stark, goes and wins an Oscar, and now he's back. It's like, hey, I just needed a little validation. Now I'm going to make $100 million. And you're like,
definitely
sounds good.
A deserving Oscar that he deserved to win for sure.
Who else should have won that year?
Who was nominated?
Well, you can't say shit like that. And then
I'll look it up if I have to.
Yeah, look it up if you have to.
We're now months removed. I don't keep that stuff in my mind. I'm not like you. I'm not like 10 years from now, someone's going to be like, hey, who did Robert Downey Jr. go up against? And your eyes roll in the back of your head. You forget the name of your grandma and you're just like fucking rattle off a list of 6 names.
It's funny because the next article was how much money they're making. And I can't begin to tell you, I don't care. This is how much Robert Downey Jr. and the Russos are making.
How much are they? It turns out I do care. How much are they making?
I think he's going to make $40 million a movie.
Per movie?
Yeah. He's going to make $80 million for the 2, which I think they're going to shoot back to back. So that's why.
Is he only in 2 movies?
He's good at, for now, I imagine. That's also what, I don't know. We could talk about it probably at a later date, but that's also what makes me think there is an actual Doctor Doom coming in and this is a Tony Stark variant or something like that. Oh, okay. Where he'll be the villain of this one and then they'll
have like
find
another,
a Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
It's kind of like having Hugh Jackman, but they will also have a Wolverine eventually.
Yeah, they have to. They have to have another one at some point.
But yeah, I can't begin to describe. It's Disney's money. I could care less how much.
That's true.
Pay them $500 million. It's not my money. Who the hell cares?
It's just interesting to me, not from a Disney perspective of what they're willing to pay, because there's no fucking salary cap. They can pay whatever they want. We're all paying them for a Disney Plus subscription that we don't use. So like, go spend your money. I don't care. But I'm more curious to see like how much money can an actor possibly make per movie? And it turns out the answer is 40 fucking million. That's insane.
As long as they make $40 million and $1, then I'm okay because they'll make another one. And that's
true.
That's all
true.
I care about.
Yeah.
So, that's all very interesting. I don't know. Like, does anyone have any theories out there on what he's going to do? Because the one I keep hearing is that, Tony Stark is an orphan in the comics. And so if instead of adopted by all-American congressmen and like professors and stuff like that, he was adopted in Latveria or wherever the story, whatever he's from, and Dr. Doom's from, and he becomes a villain instead.
Okay, it's like the same thing as what if Superman landed in Russia? And they have that
whole series.
That series is great. I actually just recently watched. I've been back on the animated DC movie wagon lately. Like I watched Crisis on 2 Earths. I think I mentioned that in a recent recording. And you and I randomly started talking about Constantine on a recording a couple weeks ago. So I went back and watched. There was a series called City of Demons, and then they put that all into a movie. And I watched that one last night again. And like, man. We said it when we talked about it. Fucking don't sleep on Constantine, man. His stories are so fucking cool. He's badass. I like the animated version of him in these movies like Justice League Dark and Apocalypse War and City of Demons and stuff. By the way, City of Demons is a play on City of Angels. If you didn't know, babe.
God. The City of Angels?
Yeah.
Oh my God. You mean New Angeles?
Oh.
What was that from? Double Dragon?
Double Dragon.
Oh my God. New Angeles.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
Because lost means old.
Old, yeah. Art.
Just absolute
so
art.
good.
Yeah, so that's kind of our roundup of movies and stuff. Like we said, we deferred some of the video game conversation because we're about to get into our hottest takes, Andrew. I've got about 5 really well crafted ones that I can get into.
Okay.
And then some ones we can throw in as well. But do you want to start? I think you mentioned you have even more.
Yeah, I got a ton, but I probably have 5 good ones. All right, I'll start. These are our hot takes. These are things that we think maybe might piss off some people, but we don't care. This is something we're going to say with our full chest.
Controversial and yet necessary.
Yes. But, like, if you're at a party, you're like, I'm not going to say this.
I don't want to.
But
now
now
we get canceled. That's what I'm worried about.
This is the diversity is ruining video games. Now we're going to stand on our soapbox and say it with our full chest. All right, here we go. I'll start off with an easy one here. Okay. Achievements are stupid.
Andrew?
Achievements are stupid. Most achievements that you get are just for playing the game. And as you progress throughout the story, you get an achievement. For what? Beating the game that you bought? That is insanely stupid. I also have, here's some subcategories to this one. But requiring to do anything online is also stupid. I just think you're buying the game, you're supposed to play this singular story that you were given.
Yeah.
Rewarding people for doing that thing is dumb. Now, are there ways to go like, did you collect all the blah, blah, blah? Okay, that's an achievement. I get that because it's outside of the normal story that you're playing. But for just rewarding people for just playing the game is so dumb.
I agree with that 100%. There is this weird I'll split from you a bit in the sense that I think there's space for achievements. I think that it's cool to have something that goes outside of the realm of the game.
Yes.
That isn't going to give you a collectible in the game, but is going to give you some sort of badge to wear in your profile. Cool. The idea is great. What they've devolved into, to add to your point, is, oh, you beat the boss? Okay, here's a witty title for an achievement that is required in order to beat the game. I don't need that. I don't need that at all.
I actually use the percentage now as a way of charting how far I am in the game.
Yes.
It's like 21%. I'm like, okay, it probably goes up to 60. So I'm probably a third of the way through the game. You know, like that is just so silly. And like, I am not a boomer that's going, these modern day participation trophy people, but like this feels like that of like, congratulations. Yay, you did it.
See, here's the thing. I am a boomer saying these modern day participation trophies are full of shit. I don't want to reward people for taking a step and going outside of their comfort zone and competing in a competition.
Yeah.
That's not enough.
Yeah.
They got to win the competition.
Yeah.
And if they don't, you should be able to, I'm sorry, hit them.
Yeah, right. Okay.
You should be able to hit them.
That's interesting. Is this your first hot take?
This is my first. We should be able to hit our children. Sorry, did you say this had to be about video games?
Yeah, well, our online children.
You should be able to use the handle from a GameCube and beat your child over the head with it.
That'll be the next controller draft. Which controller could you beat best a child with?
Andrew, let's do this right now.
Yeah.
What controller?
N64, it's got 3 prongs.
That
would do a lot of damage.
And you could also put it on the end of like a broomstick, like it's a trident. That's cool.
That's also
That's
true.
Really cool.
I also think wireless controllers, out. You got to have something that you could whip around a couple of times.
Well, yeah, in a worst case scenario, you get on their back and you just choke them out with it.
Yeah. The Duke. Sorry, it's
the Duke would have been the one.
Yeah. It weighs like 30 pounds.
That was like in medieval times, you would get rid of like a mace or a flail or something and just put the Duke on the end of a chain.
100%.
Way more dangerous.
Oh my God, yeah. Okay.
Like, what are you going to wear? Armor? That's not going to help you from that. I like that though, Andrew.
Okay.
I like putting achievements on blast. And like I said, I agree with it. I think I would change it though to, if you're going to have achievements, have them matter.
Yep.
And that sentiment is something that's going to come up a lot in my hot takes, I think, which is, gaming is the medium, I think, that does things the most, adds mechanics the most.
Okay.
Does
things the most.
Does things the most. Just adds mechanics based on an expectation of precedent, as opposed to out of feeling it's going to contribute to the betterment of the story or the mechanics themselves. And I'll kind of touch on that as I go.
Please.
So last time we did this, I mentioned that individual pieces of armor and weapons shouldn't be upgradable in video games because it limits some exploration. Like I'm thinking something like Dark Souls specifically. I want to test out a new weapon, and in order to like see how it performs at its best potential, I need to upgrade it fully, but there are limited numbers of times that you can fully upgrade a weapon in those games. So it kind of limits exploration and experimentation. I'm going to add to that for my first little bit here. I think that some games would be better without any upgrades or experience mechanics whatsoever.
So the way you start is the way you finish?
The way you start is the way you finish.
Wow, wouldn't that be novel?
It would be novel. And I know a lot of people are going to think, well, then there's no sense of growth. There's no sense of getting better. I think a well-crafted combat mechanic, combat design style of game, you get better at that as you go anyway. So you can theoretically have me start off against easier enemies and I struggle against them. You give me harder enemies and I get better at them. I don't think I need, in order to feel a sense of growth, to add to the mechanics that I have. I think just using the system that you lay in front of me might be good enough. I know that it does add this sense of like, well, I've grown as a protagonist in the game, or my character has experienced some sort of growth. But I think that is such an expected requirement of the gaming industry, kind of like what I was talking about before. Whereas I would love to see a game that doesn't have upgrades.
Yeah.
Never mind, like, especially, adding 1 point to strength so my punches do more damage. Just make the enemies more complex. And does that mean that you can't have a 100-hour game because you're limited in how complex you can actually make them? Instead, you have like an 8-hour game? Great. That's even better for me. I like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's okay. That's really interesting. I'd almost want to see what that would be like.
It would theoretically make a more streamlined game as well. Like if there are no upgrades, then you don't have experience points, so you don't have grinding.
Yeah.
So therefore, I'm focusing more of my attention on the story that the developers want me to see, as opposed to like going off the beaten path to go, stomp rats or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's your number one hottest take. My number two.
I'm not rating these in any particular order.
No, I'm just saying your first one. Your first one.
My first one.
The one that you brought up first.
Yes.
My second one is going to be Halo as a franchise fumbled the bag more than any other franchise in video game history.
Okay.
I bring this up because Halo, seminal,
Vesicle.
one of the most important video games of the last 20 years.
And one of the most important parts near your prostate.
Yeah,
Seminal vesicle.
For people that have them. Yeah, absolutely. And yet, where's Halo today? Can you maybe look under here? Maybe I'll look under there. Let me check under my chair.
I'm just going to check on my chair. Can you back for a second?
Is everyone really excited for the next Halo game? Maybe it's under there.
It's not under there, Andrew.
That's so weird. And almost for the last 10 years, no one's been excited about Halo.
Yeah.
How in the world did they fuck up the most recreatable franchise style?
Yeah.
This is a shooting game where you shoot your friends and ride around in vehicles. How in the world are we still talking about fucking Call of Duty, but we're not talking about Halo?
That's a great point.
This is insane that they screwed this up this bad.
That's a great point. Is it a change of the developer? Because I know there were some issues with Bungie getting purchasing and 343 Studios, and it could have something to do with that. It could have to do with them having almost like a design playbook on Halo and being too afraid to stray too far from it. Because I agree, man, when Halo came out, the original Halo, it was groundbreaking. Yes. It was a first-person shooter. We'd played first-person shooters before, so it wasn't just about having better mechanics of a first-person shooter on the console. It was also the story. It was, there were books written around it to flesh out the lore. I agree. It seems like the kind of thing that we should have more of, and it feels almost abandoned.
I just don't think from where it was to where it became, I don't think there is that steep of a decline in almost any other franchising, just because I'm an idiot and I feel like I could figure this one out. We just saw Deadpool that started in Wolverine Origins.
Yeah.
And then another studio took it over, and now all of a sudden it's the biggest R-rated movie of all time.
True.
These things can happen not just because one developer changes to the other. They have the thing already there that we know the market likes, and we still can't deliver that. That is bananas to me.
Yeah, and it's when Halo came out, it was groundbreaking.
Yes.
It was kind of pushing the boundaries on what a first-person shooter can be. The last Halo that came out was open world and borrowed mechanics from like the Assassin's Creed style of gaming, where there's like, here's a base, go kill the base, and then go do, and it became this open world kind of diluted sense. Did they stray there? Because I know a lot of people liked that when it came out, but no one talks about it anymore. No. There was an online component, and like I think between Halo 2 and 3, the competitive scene on that was fucking massive when it happened.
Huge, yeah.
How did, like you said, Call of Duty take over? Call of Duty was a contemporary, if not earlier than, in fact, was earlier than the original Call of Duty, was earlier than Halo.
Yeah.
And it has long legs. It's found
evolved
ways to evolve and maintain. Halo tried ODST, which I think was the kind of real-time strategy one. They've tried some more tactical shooter offshoots and stuff. But what is it about Halo that prevented it from becoming or maintaining its status as one of the more popular franchises out there?
That's the thing I'm just kind of confused at.
Do you have theories on it at all?
Well, I just think they tried to do too much. They were like chasing the market instead of just putting their feet down and going like, this is what we do.
Yeah.
We're good at this.
Yes.
And it's like, do you guys want real-time strategy?
Yeah.
Or do you want an Assassin's Creed? Oh, well, we can do that. It'll come out in 2 years and it'll be like past when it's exciting.
Yeah.
And you're like, come on, guys. Like, come on, work with me here. You know?
I agree.
It's just a bummer because I'd play a Halo game if it was really good. And it just feels like it would be one of the ones we would do on the podcast.
I wonder if a game like Destiny just took over that space.
Yeah.
I mean, it basically was like a spiritual successor to Halo in a lot of ways, except it was online and more multiplayer, and there was a loot-based system, and a lot of people moved to Destiny and Destiny 2, and then maybe that just meant the story of Halo had been superseded. Like the mechanics of it were mimicked in Destiny and were fleshed out a little bit more in Destiny with more RPG elements. So maybe going back to Halo just felt stale or like a step backwards. I'm not sure.
There you go.
But you can't say that about something like Mario, where you go back to the original Mario formula, you're like, this is still great.
Yeah.
Why is that?
We're still making Assassin's Creeds. We're still making like over and over again. Like it's reinventing itself. Now they're going to Japan. They were just in Viking times. You know, like God of War reinvented completely. Like,
yes.
Zelda reinvented.
Don't say that about God of War though, because now the next Halo game we're gonna get is like a beaten down Master Chief taking care of a little kid. Like that's what we're gonna get now.
His screen's gonna be cracked, and he'll take it off, and he'll be like, "Boy," you're like, "Oh crap." Yeah.
You just, Andrew, I hate that you said that. That is the Halo game we're getting.
Yeah,
that's 100%. If Sony had Halo under its belt, that's what we would get.
Yeah,
just a very muted, like. In fact, that may be where they're going with the Gears of War franchise as well. I don't know, because that's how the trailer looks. It's everyone is going like old, beaten down dad protagonists. That's
everyone's doing Logan.
Yes, everyone is doing Logan. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
And Deadpool's like, no, I'm gonna unbury Logan. I'm gonna dig him up and use an NSYNC song behind him.
Yeah, good scene as well. I liked it. Did you see NSYNC changed their the title of the Bye 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 song on YouTube, like the video?
No,
they changed it to Bye 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 NSYNC. Official song from the Deadpool Wolverine soundtrack.
Funny.
Yeah.
Make that money.
Yeah, gotta make that money.
Bag.
Because I always said Justin Timberlake doesn't make enough money, you know?
Yeah.
He should make more money.
He's going through a rough thing right now, so yeah.
Is he? I saw his performance and it wasn't great. And then he had the DUI.
He had the DUI and the famous line of, it's gonna ruin the tour. And the cop went, what tour? And he goes, the world tour.
Oh no.
And the cop's like, what are you talking about?
Oh no.
Also, you got to imagine he's in the Hamptons, got arrested for a DUI. You got to imagine how drunk he was, because every celebrity is drunk through through the Hamptons.
100%.
And he must have been like asleep at the wheel, like driving forward, you know?
I feel for him. He had the world in the palm of his hands.
Boy, did he.
And then the ravages of age take over and you lose a step. And
I just think it's karma for Janet Jackson taking the fall and he rised. And then it's like, you know what? We need to balance this out.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, Janet Jackson was...
she was banned from the Super Bowl for getting her clothes ripped off her body.
That's insane. Yeah, but it was
like she was a participant. It's not like she was genuinely surprised.
But how did it happen to... How didn't it happen to both of them? We couldn't afford to lose Justin, dude.
He was too important.
He was too important.
Have you seen him on SNL?
He's so funny.
He's so funny.
His dick's in a box.
Him and Jimmy Fallon, America's Treasures.
Okay, my next one, Andrew.
Yes. Pissing off so many people.
This one, all the.
I should have been my next. Justin Timberlake's overrated. People are like, what the fuck? Like, just like climbing the windows of the studio.
I get what you said about Pokemon, but you fucking leave Justin's name out of your mouth. Here's one that is going to. I'm going to need some explanation on it.
Okay.
So I'm just going to come out and say it, Andrew. No more hiding lore chunks as hidden collectibles in video games.
Lore chunks.
Chunks of lore.
I drank too much. I gotta deposit some lore chunks.
The story should come standard. Rewards should not be. Rewards should be functional in nature, not background building. So if I go off the beaten path somewhere, I want to be rewarded with a new weapon.
Yeah.
I want to be rewarded with something
like XP or something.
Something like that. Not a piece of lore that is adding to the story that I should already know. I don't like not knowing if I'm getting the full story simply because I didn't think to look behind a corner, which was purposely hidden off the beaten path. I have to trust that the path that I'm on because the developers wanted me there. And then they purposely hide off of that path something that is potentially integral to the story itself. I think about a game like Jusant, which I played and I really liked. And it's essentially just a game about climbing. You climb this mountain, and as you go, you pick up these logs and bits of information.
Sure.
And that kind of tells you about the history of the place. But in order to know the full history, you have to explore everything and go all the way around. Now, it's not like an open world game where I can find a way to get to an area that is like super creative. It's just a matter of like, that's the way it wants me to go. Okay, I'm going to turn around and go look for another path now.
Yes. Okay, I get that. But okay, so like audio tapes, do those count? Because that's lore.
So it is lore. But I'll say this about audio tapes.
Like notebooks or, you know, that kind of shit, right?
Those do count as lore, but I say put them on the main path. Like why do I need to go off? Like why is that the reward I get for going somewhere else? That seems integral.
Yeah.
I don't want you to hide the story from me.
Yeah, that's a good, I didn't even kind of think about that. Like I get that, like online games, especially apps, things like that, want you to spend as much time on them as possible.
Yes.
That's how they make money.
Yeah.
But if you bought a single player game, you spending more time with it is not profitable to anybody.
No, I know that there's got to be some algorithm that like keeping you in the ecosystem is important to whatever, because every game company does it. They want you to spend more time with the game, but ultimately, okay, I wrote a couple notes on this because if I backtrack and I find my way into a secret spot I've had circled as a question mark on my map for 6 hours, and I pick up an audio log, like shut up. I've got YouTube for that. Like I can go to YouTube and find out like the hidden chunks of lore if I want, or it should be contained within like some cinematic that's coming up. And then you mentioned the audio logs.
Yeah.
Lore dumps should always be audio logs. I never want to have to read a note. They're not very well written, ever. They always feel like an afterthought. And if they're an afterthought for the writers of the game, I feel disrespected by you making me read them. Yeah. I should always be able to hit a button and go about the game as the audio log is playing so I can continue to play, as opposed to just like reading this and like, fucking, I don't care.
I completely agree with you on that. Yeah. I get, like, why wouldn't you want the user to know more about the story or be more invested in the story?
Yeah.
Why are you making it harder on them?
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm with you on this. Okay.
Yeah.
So Mikey, Mikey wants it to be easier to find lore chunks.
Yeah. Don't hide them.
Lore chunks.
Lore chunks. Chunks of lore.
Okay. This one's a little broad.
Okay.
But it really drives me crazy because this is not purely a video game thing, but it is something I thought specifically about video games recently when it comes to Alan Wake 2. But this is about movies as well.
Okay.
There are just too many goddamn guns in video games and movies.
Okay.
Every plot device has to rotate around the character eventually getting a handgun.
Yeah.
And it just blows my mind that we could do anything. This is video games. There's no tying to reality. It drives me crazy that, so I'll talk about Alan Wake 2 specifically. This is what I'm playing right now. He's a writer in a universe of dark spirits that doesn't exist, but he needs bullets for his handgun that he shoots ghosts with? He has a fucking magic wand that makes him change realities, but he needs bullets to physically load a revolver like he's fucking Clint Eastwood in Good, Bad, and the Ugly. Yeah. It blows my mind.
So here's a question I have for you, because I agree. And I think that video games are still in such a supreme stage of infancy that we need to rely on things like guns and shooting.
Things we know.
You're so right. That doesn't need to be in games.
No.
There are so many other mechanics. Like I talk about Jusant, a game that doesn't have any shooting. It's just climbing. Climbing is the mechanic.
Yes.
But I feel like too many games rely on shooting as the mechanic. And if it's not shooting, it's shooting magic out of your hands. Combat isn't necessary. It can be really fun.
Yes.
And in fact, it's often very fun.
Yeah.
But there are other ways around it. And maybe in a game like Alan Wake, it is like, I know they've made it a part of the story and it's whatever, but I feel like there's probably another way to write it. Do you have any thoughts on what else they could have done to make Alan Wake a fully fleshed out and realized game?
Well, yeah, because they're almost there. They need to make it about his writing.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that mechanic is, but it has to be something involved with him being an author and using his mind to overcome these things. And I don't care if it's fucking like the Doctor Strange fight with the musical notes. I could care less. But the idea that this feels like the most NRA idea of all possible. It's like, you got ghosts in your house? Have you tried shooting them?
Have you tried shooting them?
It's insane to me that you got to shoot the ghosts.
Now, here's the thing about shooting ghosts.
Yeah.
You can use blanks.
Right. Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, I could have been using blanks the whole time?
Blanks are just ghost bullets.
Oh.
So you can, I think it's basically fire them.
Yeah.
Someone should have told
Yes, this should have been like part of the tutorial that doesn't really exist in that video game. I'm sitting here going, God, I need more bullets. I'm like, for what? What am I doing? Why do I need bullets?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Do you ever, when you're playing that game, do you ever get to the point where you have a combat encounter with enemies and you miss too many shots, so you replay the encounter? Like you go reload a save because you're like, I can't waste that many bullets on this encounter. I'm gonna need them later. So do you ever do that?
I have. Oh, no, I usually just die. I've died so many times cooldowns in this fucking game. I'll give my thoughts when I'm almost done.
Yeah.
And then we'll do a full breakdown on it because this game is confounding to me.
It is. There's a lot to talk about. I would spend a whole episode on.
I would
on
too.
Alan Wake
Yes.
too.
A year later.
Basically it's right around the time of the DLC, so it kind of works. But have you gotten to the point now where, as Alan, you're applying different plot modifiers? Yes. Yeah. So that's a way they try to use, and this is going to go against what I've been saying, but they try to use his talent as a writer to influence the game itself beyond shooting. That mechanic fucking blows.
Okay, I am the same. I am totally with you. If you don't know what we're talking about, Alan Wake is an author, and he is dead. But in his death, in this dark world he lives in, the dark place,
which is very creative.
It's so you wouldn't believe it. The Good Place came up with it first, and now it's the Bad Place. Is that because he's still writing, they're forcing him to write.
Right.
He is coming up with storylines that apply to certain situations, and you could be using multiple of them, and there's a correct one that helps you get back to where you're supposed to be going or whatever the objective is. And in that, even explaining it, I'm like, that's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool idea, because when you go to his mind palace, you switch out the objective of what the storyline is.
Plot modifier.
The plot modifier. Yeah. That's a better way of putting it. And it completely changes the scene, even though it's the same room and it remotely resembles it. Oh, it's a cult thing now, and there's an altar stuff. Oh no, it's a murder scene, and there's a grisly death. Yeah. It changes that
it's
part.
It's a police detective.
Yes.
and now there's someone there getting interrogated that you can.
So
inspect.
It changes it on the fly, which is really cool. And you go, this doesn't make any sense. I should try the other one. Cool. That's really cool. Except it's annoying as fuck. And it's not, sometimes makes no sense whatsoever. You have to guess, and then it takes all the fun out of it.
Sometimes most of the time you have to guess.
Yes.
And all the time, if you want to go back and get collectibles, you have to arbitrarily apply plot modifiers to scenes where you know it wouldn't work, just so you can find like a door removed. So here's a weird example of one, but like you'll be in a room in a construction site, and there'll be like a plank of wood that's kind of up against a wall, and there's clearly a hole and like something to collect on the other side of it. And you're like, okay, I'm going to apply to construction zone the plot modifier of detective story. And you do that, and all of a sudden the room changes, and now there's a person in the corner here, and there's curtains over there, but the wooden plank is still there. You're like, well, that's not it. So now you apply the cult story to that same room, and then the wooden plank's gone.
It just moved.
The wooden plank doesn't have anything to fucking do with it. You just have to go and like put blocks in holes and hope that it happens.
And then when you're changing it, you're in your mind palace in this attic with Alan, and then he has the fucking gall to say to you, and like he'll just go like, yeah, that doesn't make any sense here. And I have to go out loud going, I know, Alan, but I'm fucking trying here because this game makes no fucking sense sometimes.
It feels like I don't like a puzzle where the solution is beyond logic. It's just like, just try, and then the mechanics, and eventually the mechanics will lead you to the solution. Yeah. But I should be able to bypass the trial and error phase, and in so doing reach the goal. And by the way, don't put collectibles in the trial and error phase. That's fucking annoying.
I know. It doesn't apply logic. Like shooting ghosts with a handgun.
Like shooting ghosts with a handgun.
There we go.
I like that. We just spent a long time talking about what makes the game kind of negative, and I'm going to get into a bit of a negative space for my one here, Andrew. And I might need your help with this one.
Please.
Because I've been struggling with it a little bit. Here's my hottest take.
Yeah.
This is the most boomer thing I can ever say.
Here we go.
Games just aren't as good as they used to be. Now, I don't know if this is just me or if it's that this era of gaming doesn't suit me as well, because we talk about, how every game needs a gun and how all these games need to have these level up mechanics just because other games do. And they feel like they're going to be alienating the audience if they don't include these expectations of the medium. But it just doesn't speak to me. It also could just be that I'm getting older. And as I'm playing games, when I used to just be able to veg out and being like, I want to jump as high as I can and collect everything that I can collect, I'm thinking about work, and I'm thinking about my social life and all that stuff. It could be that. I don't know.
More outside pressure.
Are you experiencing this at all? Or do you think we're in the golden age of gaming?
Well, I do. I can see both sides. But for me, I also think they're getting worse, or they're not as applicable to my life anymore. Okay. And I think that is me getting older. And I understand that part of it. But like, games are broken upon delivery. They take more time than ever and more money to be made. So they're coming out at a lower rate. Now, I don't want to go against what we always say is that there are too many games and they need to slow down. Yes. But it felt like as a kid, that every 2 weeks there was a game coming out that you're like, oh, there's a game coming out. Yeah. And you have the choice. Now it's like, I was excited for, like, we just talked about this when I got the PS5. And I was like, hey, I'm excited for all these games. And people are like, well, you could try these. And it felt like under 10 games that were like essential for a 4-year cycle of a console.
But I think we're misremembering how often games were released back in the day, because when you think about like the N64 era, like there were not a ton of great games for the N64. There were very few games for the N64, but I think that we were less concerned about the newest and best, and we were more willing to go back when we had a Super Nintendo and play a Nintendo
rentals,
game,
yeah.
or rented. Yes, exactly.
I totally understand that, but we also have multiple consoles that were all making their own games too.
Right.
Now you get one game and it comes out on all the consoles, so you don't really have to matter. So it feels like it's less. All I'm saying is that like it just. I also think there's a COVID factor to this too, where now games come out. Like there's 4 big games this year. It's like movies. It's like TV.
We got spoiled last year.
We did. I get that. And like, you know, the next big one for me is Star Wars.
Yes.
But if I went back from August 30th when it comes out to going back to finding out what the game before that, I'm like, man, it does feel pretty sparse sometimes.
This year has felt very sparse for me.
And I would only say is that because if you didn't like the game before that was college football. If you don't like college football, like Mikey, he's a college basketball guy. We know.
100%.
It has been a little bit of a window, you know what I mean? Until you were excited to do things.
Final Fantasy was there for a lot of people, but not quite up my alley.
All of these are very, very niche. And I just don't know if I don't know if video games are as good. And I would also just point back to the thing I said first. Most of them are broken upon delivery.
Yes.
And that I find to be incredibly inexcusable.
You're talking about like the cyberpunk thing.
Yeah.
And I agree. I think that you know, maybe it's just that games are trying to do too much or the expectations are too high. I've just found more and more often that contained games like that try to do one thing and not be everything always speak more to me.
100%.
And I feel like more often that's less the case. Even something like Elden Ring, which I know everyone loves and I know that I'm wrong about. I have to be. Same thing with like Red Dead. I have to be wrong about this because so many people love it, but it just feels like bigger is rewarded with better.
Yes.
But then I play a game like Cocoon. There's no guns in Cocoon. It's like a 6-hour experience, probably less, probably 4 or 5 hour experience. It's a puzzle game. It's not trying to deal with like 3D environments in the same way. It contains itself and therefore is able to really refine the point by point mechanics in a way that I don't know you can with an open world game without being busted upon delivery and having to adjust as you go. Yeah.
No, I feel like we're to the point of failure where we're just trying to get too big and it's just going to fail over and over again. And, you know, maybe we're back in the day too, where it's like, you got to be like really wise about buying games, but then it puts back on the video game industry as a whole going like, you and I are especially the consumers of like, it's a big game and everyone likes it. We're buying it.
Yeah.
Don't make us become the consumers going like, well, I'll wait. No, I'll wait to see. Is it good? And you're like, I don't know. I'm gonna wait for other people to tell me.
More and more, I've become that person.
Me too.
Because I find I'll buy the game. I'll be like, I'm bumping up against this a little bit. You know what? I'm going to go play something smaller. I'm going to play something that's going to take me 2 or 3 hours or is a lot easier for me to get into. And that also is an element of aging. Kids, if you're out there listening to this, it will happen to you.
Yes,
it becomes harder to get good at games and to let the mechanics wash over you. I could pick up a game and understand everything about how to play it within 20 minutes when I was a kid. Nowadays, if I've perfected a game and I don't play it for 3 days, I need to relearn from the beginning. It's wild.
Yeah, it's the Grandpa Simpson thing.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, it was it, and then I was it, and then, you know, whatever. And I had no idea what it was.
Yeah,
and it'll happen to you. And he points right at Homer. He goes, you have no idea what you're talking about, old man. And that's us telling you at home, you know. But also, if you're a teenager, you have to tell us, Mikey's not allowed to talk to you.
No, I am. I just have to inform you of a couple things.
Yeah, we should just put
inconsequential things.
We should just put that at the front of every episode.
That's the intro?
Yeah. Hello, my name is Mikey. Okay. Games are getting worse. It's Mikey's hot take.
Oh, I thought that was yours.
No,
I was like, hey, look at us. Yeah.
Okay. Where's another good one? I got a couple good ones, and then I can list off a bunch of other ones.
Okay.
Okay. Well, you know, no, I won't do that one. Art style is more important to me than realism or 4K graphics.
Okay.
I think if you look at and I'm going to get a little heady here, but if you look at art styles of paintings throughout history, we go through waves of what we find to be the most important or most key element of art at the time.
Cubism
is a great example because Impressionism is great.
Charcoal paint.
Okay, now you're just saying stuff, but that's fine.
Candles.
I liked where your head was at for most of the point. Candles.
People like painting candles for a while. Fruits and candles.
If you have to write an old timey thing, you wash it with tea first, so it looks old. But we did that. We with paints. We we got so hyper realistic with things, and we're like, man, this is really good. And guess what came afterwards? Not realistic, because people are like, this is bullshit. We are getting at the point with everyone at home with their televisions that everyone has a 4K 1080 level of television. It's all really, really good. That to the point you go like, this is the most real thing we've ever seen. And then we start going, I don't know if I want to see that.
Yeah.
I think I want to see something interesting and fun and different. And I think that is my guess for the next generation, because I'm just becoming less and less impressed with games going like, it looks so real.
For sure.
And you're like, yeah, okay.
I think like the best looking game I've ever played is probably Ratchet and Clank. Rift Apart on the PS5. And that is not a realistic looking game.
No.
It has elements of realism, like you can see Ratchet's fur and stuff like that. That's pretty cool. But I just, like I played Psychonauts, and Psychonauts is now a couple years old, and Psychonauts 2. And that game looks fucking fantastic. And and that comes down to the art design. I'm never looking at a character and thinking like, this is silly or whatever. And it's not like they're going for peak realism. So when peak realism doesn't work, I'm like put off a little bit. There's no dealing with Uncanny Valley. They've just made a choice to make everything weird. Yeah. So it all looks natural in its own way.
What's the best looking movie you saw last year? Is it Enter the Spider-Verse? Right. Because it wasn't realistic. Yeah. It was just the style that they added to it that you went, oh my God, this looks amazing.
For sure.
So I would put it just a warning call on everyone going like, this looks so good. And it was top of mind too, again, Alan Wake, because they use real actors in it all the time. Yeah. And then it cuts back and you go, look how good it looks. It's almost like the real actors. You're like, oh, is that good? Like, I don't walk away going like, very impressive. Yes. You know what I mean? I go, yeah, okay.
So, okay, just to touch on Alan Wake there a little bit. Again, do you like when it mixes in the photorealism?
No.
Neither do I.
I zone out.
Yes.
I go, when an actor has to look at me and go like, this is an important exposition. And you're like, and the worst part is they lazily do it. Now, in the beginning, when they introduced the photorealism, just in case you haven't played this game, they do it at a talk show where Alan Wake becomes his real life person, and he's in the talk show and he doesn't know why. That's interesting enough as it is. But every time from there, it's him, the video game character, staring at a television of a real person looking at you. So now I'm looking at a character looking at a television. I'm looking at a television, looking at a character looking at a television. And I just go, oh God, I don't care. Like, this cannot be important. Like, that's not interesting to me.
There are sometimes, and I'm sure someone involved in the writing and the design of Alan Wake over at Remedy has an explanation as to when and why specifically they introduce like the photorealism, what it means tonally and thematically. I kind of get the sense that they hope that I will figure that out without them actually knowing. They're like, now it's photorealistic. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, isn't that crazy? And I'm like, why? And they're like, you tell me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I would understand it if every time, because there's multiple times that like a projection or a television is talking to you.
Right.
I would get that every time you do that, it was photorealism. Like if you had to talk to another character that was pre-recorded, it's photorealism. But every time my character becomes photorealistic for no reason and I can't control him, I don't really understand why that happens.
Right. And if maybe we missed it, maybe there is a tonal, like a thematic reason for it. But like, here's an example. We talked about I Saw the TV Glow recently. Yeah. And there are some characters who, when they're framed, are always framed with specific color palettes. And those color palettes have links to different gender associations and gender identities. So it makes sense that when there's a green tinge to the screen or a purple tinge to the screen, that's what this character is shown as. That's what they're thinking. That's what their mood is. But when Alan Wake becomes photorealistic, I don't know that there's anyone who can tell me what association that has thematically, what it means to the story apart from just being wacky.
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like they just go like, weird, right?
Yes.
Like, it's like,
but to what end?
It's unsettling you.
Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah, wait, but yeah, kind of, I guess.
Maybe,
why? I don't know. Like, does that matter?
Yeah.
So yeah, the art style thing I think is going to have a little bit of a reckoning probably in the future. But yes.
Yeah, I think so. And kudos to all the games out there that are still coming up with their own art styles. 'Cause I think a lot of them do it really, really well.
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm gonna go with this one here. Dialogue trees are a hindrance in 95% of the games that use them.
I have a tie to this, so keep going. Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think we've talked constantly, like in a lot of these points, about how games feel like they need to include things in order to be a part of the medium, like certain mechanics. Just like in the early 2000s, every game had to have a multiplayer mode, even if it wasn't good.
Yeah.
Games now feel like they need to give you a choice in dialogue, even though that's not necessary to the story development.
Yep.
And what that ends up doing is taking away from the creativity of framing a conversation. Like in movies, conversations are good because they're the most poignant, boiled in, and when done correctly, boiled down, poignant examples of dialogue that they can write, and they're filmed in interesting ways as well. In dialogue trees, you're just looking at two bodies standing still, saying what sounds often like filler because they didn't want to write the best conversation these two characters could have. Instead, they're writing dialogue trees based on what you think you would have wanted to bring to the conversation. And I'll use Psychonauts as an example. You have these moments where you talk to some NPCs in the game, and you're given a list of things that you can say. 8 times out of 10, you click on it and you're like, that wasn't funny, and it didn't really tell me anything. And it had this weird like, well, this is what I think. Well, this is what I think. Well, this is what I think. And then you go to and you're basically just choosing the options because it's a checklist. What I would have rather had, like, the writers of this game are incredibly funny. Yeah. Give me the best conversation that you can put together between these two. The funniest jokes from the dialogue, not because you want to give me the illusion of choice in a conversation. I am not Raz in this game. Raz is his own character. So why you're not Joel in The Last of Us deciding what you want to say to Ellie, because I want the auteur to tell me what Joel would have said to Ellie.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not Joel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't be in this situation. You know what I mean?
And there's room for that.
100%.
In like an RPG, but not in every game.
I completely agree with you. My thing that was going to tie to this. Oh, no, I just closed the app.
Oh, no, Andrew.
Oh, there it is.
See, in your dialogue tree, you chose stall.
Yeah. Oh, no. Fill the air.
Yeah.
Okay. There are no actual, this choice will 100% have consequences games out there. And this comes down to the dialogue thing. Mostly, if not all choice-based games give you an illusion of choice, but at the end of the day, result in almost the same thing no matter what.
Yeah. Very often, but I think there are a few exceptions.
Sure.
Baldur's Gate being an example of it. That game is entirely different every time you play it. But I think again, this goes down to not every game, but then that means not every game needs to try to give you that illusion.
Or give you the idea that, like, these matter.
Exactly.
And then at the end, you're like even to the point that, like, Red Dead has an outcome system. But it's more of, like, for the user. Because at the end, you see, depending on if you're being a good person or a bad person, you see the
bad boy of gaming.
The bad boy of gaming,
of Red
Arthur
Dead.
Morgan. Yeah. Arthur, bad boy of podcasting, Morgan. Yeah, he's just like, Dirch. Yeah, that'd be great. We should get him on one time.
We should.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be tough. Can you catch tuberculosis?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, TV's bad. Is that they would show you, like, a wolf if it was good, or like, no, wolf is bad, deer is good, or something like that. And it shows in between to give you an update of, like, whether you're playing this game honorably or not.
Right.
And the end scene is different. Is that genuinely changing the characters don't really interact with you that differently? The story is the exact same. Like, is that worth it?
No, you know, that's a great point. And that was an old, like, BioWare style of gaming where you basically put points into good or evil, and we're rewarded more with just the end of the game. Like, you see a different cutscene, and like, I hate to say this, but like in today's YouTube era, I can always just look up the other ending.
I'm not going to play the whole game again.
There was a time when people wanted to play through it to see all the different endings. And there are games like Sekiro, for example. There are different areas of the game that you decide to help certain people or hurt certain people. And based on that, you have different boss fights. You have a different path to victory. And it does become, like, the end part of the game, the last 4 hours or so, become wildly different. And that's cool. New gameplay mechanics. New end of the story. The Witcher is always very good at that as well. I remember I played The Witcher 2 and I made a decision. And then when I went to go replay it, because I got it on Xbox instead of playing it on PC, I made the opposite decision and saw 12 hours of the game that I didn't see the other time I played it. It was really, like, those are cool. Cool. I like those. Yeah.
Well, that's what mine. How many more do you have? Do you want to, like, list some?
I've got one, which is kind of just like an add-on to, I thought it was its own thing, but I think it's more of an add-on to, like, my hidden collectibles as lore sort of thing. I just want to put hidden collectibles on blast for a second in games. Hidden collectibles in games, especially when it's just like hundreds of this thing in the world, in my mind, is little more than artificial inflation to a game's time to beat. And I don't see the end to that. I think they detract from pacing in a way that we don't experience in any other medium. And I'll give this example. Imagine the beginning of the climax of Star Wars, and before Luke flies towards the Death Star, he's like, wait, I left something back on Tatooine. And he has to go back on Tatooine and, like, kill womp rats for his farmer neighbor for a while. It's like the story is rushing towards one thing, and then you have this ability to pull back as the player character and do something entirely unrelated just because it fills some obsessive compulsive need that gamers have as gamers. I just feel like, as if I were an auteur telling a story in a video game, I wouldn't want gamers to be going off the beaten path to pick up like 100 different collectibles. Psychonauts is an awful example of this game. And I think it's the worst part of Psychonauts is the fact that you have so many different types of collectibles. Figments, which are just randomly scattered throughout every level, and they do count how many you have, so you're encouraged to get all of them, which means that you get to a new area, and instead of being like, wow, this is a cool area, you're thinking like, where are the hidden areas? And the worst offenders of these are the ones that require backtracking.
Yeah.
And again, to use Psychonauts as an example, you'll find these things called emotional baggage, which is a cool concept. It's inside the people's heads. And there's like you'll see like a suitcase, and it's like good. Crying. Yeah. And somewhere else in the level is a luggage tag. So it's like the luggage tag, you have to connect the two, and it gives you like this little cinematic, and it's kind of funny. Yeah, like that. The problem is, usually you'll see the baggage and then you'll find the bag tag later in the level and then just have to go back and connect the two. But that's not fun. That's not a good game mechanic. You're just wasting my time. I want to go forward. If your story is interesting, I want to move forward and see the rest of it. I don't want to backtrack just to see a little cinematic of a suitcase getting reunited with a
backtracking in levels. How about that?
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't like
Bad.
it.
Don't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. All right. I got a bunch more. Do you want me to just list them off?
List them off.
Okay. Here we go. Every single player game needs a pause option.
100%. Yes.
Okay. Just because you played a game in your childhood doesn't automatically make it better. This is key to this podcast.
Welcome to the Retrograde.
Yeah, 100%. Most people online ruin the fun out of gaming.
That's not a hot take. I think most people agree with you on that.
Yeah. It's the internet. It's not always your team's fault.
Is it yours, you're saying?
It could sometimes be your fault.
I don't agree with that. I played enough Overwatch to know it's always my team's fault.
Yeah. Thanks. Need healing. Okay. People complain about Microsoft and Sony for being soulless ghouls all the time, but not enough about Nintendo.
I agree.
I'm just saying Nintendo is maybe the worst. But
the one thing I will say, it's kind of like Apple, where they do make amazing products, and they're very particular about the ways in which those products interact with other IP and other consoles out there. Nintendo, more than Sony and more than Microsoft, treat their IP the best. I think like when a Mario game comes out, you know it's going to be treated with like, I don't know if this is the right, but like the utmost respect. Like it's going to be of a certain quality. Yeah.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
And then the last one is shitty mobile games ruin the market. This should have been a no-brainer, and there should be so many good mobile video games, but there's too much noise out there and you can't find them.
I agree.
A $1.99 video game that's on a thing that everyone owns.
Yeah.
This should make so much sense.
It should. I think it's that free-to-play thing. There's just too much money. The people who ultimately make the decisions on what a game is going to be and how it's structured are driven by money, and they've got people that they're accountable to. So you could make a well-crafted mobile game and sell it for $6, but if market research shows you're better to give the game away for free and hope that people buy packs to like increase the aesthetics of their character, then they're not going to care. Olympics Go Paris 2024, which we did a few weeks ago, is the perfect example of that. It is a step back from the last Olympics games that came out because it encourages microtransactions. It's a bad system.
For what?
Yeah.
What a ridiculous game. But yeah, those are my hot takes.
Those are my hot takes.
Wow. Those are our hottest takes. Do you have any hot takes? Let us know at Retrograde Podcast.
And not hot cakes. If you have them, we'll take them.
Some Johnny cakes. Some hot cakes.
There was a really funny line in Psychonauts 2, which was my best takeaway from the game. And you're Raz and you're talking to another psychic intern at like the Psychic Academy, and she's cooking pancakes. And he's like, those look great. Can I have some? And she's like, you can have anything that falls on the floor. And he says so sincerely, thanks. And there's something about that delivery. I haven't stopped thinking about it. There's a lot of good with Psychonauts 2. I just think it is very inflated.
Well, there we go. That is our thoughts on our hottest takes. Please let us know at Retrograde Podcast, at Retrograde Pod, about your hot takes. And we can't wait to talk to you soon. But we love every single one of you. My name is Andrew Bascom. And with me as always is the mommiest boy of podcasting, Mr. MBOP,
Mikey Aaronworth.
That'll get smoother, I promise. But keep sending in which ones you like about what Mikey is of podcasting. And until then, this is the Retrograde Podcast.
Game over, you piece of shit.
One person specifically, but everyone else.
Specifically, Ron from Cleveland.
I think it was Mike.
Mike from Cleveland?
Yeah.
Fuck you and your namesake.
All Mikes. Oh, wait. Shit.
Furnished by Sad Styles Productions.
Any excuse for people to be shitheads.
Yeah.